travel down this road.
Welcome to the Number One Podcast,
where we give you an authentic look into the world's healthiest, wealthiest, and most inspirational minds.
We talk about trending topics, bold ideas, and give you real-world examples that will inspire you to take massive action and become the number one version of yourself.
Today's guest is none other than Pat. Pat has tons of salesmanship. I actually just met Pat. When did we meet? Just this weekend?
Yeah, it was
like 4 days ago.
It was pretty recent, man.
Literally.
It was like a week and a half ago, but
Take action, guys. Massive action. But yeah. Our friend Mel, who does a ton of behind the camera work actually for this podcast, Andrew here, was friends with Pat. Pat was there. We met, talked about life. We're like, yo, let's get on the pod. I was just at Pat's house yesterday for his 4th of July celebration that he held. Amazing house, great host. So yeah, man, I think before we jump in and start talking about anything, Pat, maybe just talk, what are the highlights of, your adult life? Where'd you start? Where are you today? And then we'll start to dig in.
For sure, man, for sure. And thank you, by the way. Great meeting you guys. I think, number one, all of us, right? We have a certain vibration that we give to this reality, and you attract a certain type of person. So it's like when you recognize that other people around you have that same type of spirit and same type of energy, it kind of amplifies. So I was very happy to meet you guys about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But just high level stuff, man. My name's Patrick Voltapetti. I'm a 3rd generation real estate investor. My family's been here since legit in Miami since early 60s.
Wow. Okay.
So came here after World War II. Grandfather came from Italy. So that wasn't not on the best side of World War II, obviously. Yeah. But, he was a 21-year-old person that's being pulled into a world war. So it's kind of like,
yeah, he did what everybody else did.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice at that point, right? But he comes over to America, and he knew that longevity was definitely in the dirt, and that he wanted to buy properties and have a sense of freedom for his family and things moving forward. So like for me, being born and raised here in Miami, I had on one side of my family, so I'm half Italian, half Jamaican. So I had on one side of my family, my grandfather, who was the wealth builder in my line. He came here, started buying stuff. Can we curse on this podcast?
Yeah, you say what the fuck you want, dude.
Yeah, all right. So like, we were talking about it the other day. Like you fuck around and you find out.
Yeah.
My grandfather had that kind of spirit where he was like, I'm just gonna try shit. And, it ended up working out for him. He started, bought some property in Golden Beach.
Nice. Bought
the 7th Avenue Flea Market. Area kind of turned down over the years, but just started buying stuff out here in Miami before it all built out.
Cool.
But I think the perspective that I come from, and so just for the viewers to know, is I saw on one side of my family a little bit of wealth. Mm-hmm. I saw what they prioritized. And then on my mom's side of the coin, from Jamaica, she literally came here from Jamaica. Yeah. So it wasn't like I had generations that were in America from that side. Oh. So it was like I saw 2 vastly different cultures that put importance on vastly different things. And not being able to fit into one or the other and kind of having this middle space, it allowed me to look at a lot of this stuff from a different lens.
Cool.
Right. And I think the background that I come from is understanding real estate, understanding how to evaluate deals, sales background. I've been in sales now for, I actually believe life is a sale.
Yeah, I was going to say everything is sales.
You're in, it's just kind of where we're at. But, I guess I own 3 different companies. I have a vending company here in Miami. I have an education company. I also educate. That's just kind of a spiritual thing, like a skill that I just kind of had, and I choose to give that to the world. So Volt Notes is the education space.
Okay.
Right now we branch into multifamily, but we'll probably branch into other things, relationships, things like that. Starting to put together some courses on that. And then I also have a fund. So Freedom Fund Capital, $50 million fund. We go after Class A core multifamily assets here in, I won't say only Miami. So it's like the Southeast, South Carolina, North Carolina, Miami, Texas, all throughout Florida as well. So
Cool, man.
Nice, man.
pretty much what I got going on.
No, that's great, bro. And so I think in meeting, we uncovered that we've got some mutual friends. And so it turned out that a good deal of those you met when you were working at Cardone, right?
Yeah.
So is that where you really mastered your ability to sell? Or do you think you had that before then? What impacted working there? Because my boys that worked at Cardone are freaking killers.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody has to be to make it there.
Well, it's the environment for sure. Yeah. Like the environment, the culture that they create there, it's a culture of excellence.
Yeah.
Right? It is a culture of constant improvement. That no matter how big your win just was, it's over now.
There's another one. Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's, the most important thing is PT, present time. And that's constantly what was stressed there. But I knew where they got that from. That was the thing, is like, I felt like going into Cardone's office, I felt like I had the intangibles of 10X prior to ever knowing Grant because of my grandfather. Yeah. Right. Like I read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius as a 15, 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was like I was walking into this place and all the things that they were saying about constant improvement, that, not to focus on the past, right? The past is for psychos, and you can't worry too much about the future because it's not here. It's not here. The only thing that you can dictate is the present moment.
Wow.
So give every single thing that you've got in this window of time.
Yeah.
And that's what's preached there. And so it was like I came into an environment that already connected with me spiritually. Yeah. So I was able to excel there.
That's powerful, whether you're doing real estate investing, vending machines, or even trading like I do. I'm also in sales, right? So I sell software. It's the same thing, right? Like my reward for crushing Q4 last year was a bigger quota, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, we get paid commission, so your reward is actually money. You get paid, I had a blowout quarter. It's awesome. But then the next thing is like, okay, we see that you can kill it, so let's see you kill it a little bit more. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that mindset, right? And I'm going to kind of preempt the pushback on this is people go, oh, so you're always chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. But it's yes, but it really comes back to the why, right? You have to love the process, right?
Absolutely.
So if you love taking down deals, it doesn't matter how big the deal is, right? Because you just have to love the process. You have to love winning with the team, being able to go in and, at least for me, navigate these big organizations, close a big deal, and then use that really just as a marker, like, okay, now we can do something even better, right? Yeah. Regardless of what the number is. So I just love that mindset, man. I also want to take a little note. We don't have to talk about it now, but George Washington's notes. He has a book, or just around the Revolution and that time period. I know you want to talk about that.
Oh, dude, I will. I definitely will.
Yeah, man. But what do you think is the biggest? What was kind of the spur for you to leave Cardone Capital? I think that's the name of the company, right?
Yeah.
Kind of do your own thing, and where are you headed in the next 5-10 years? What are you working on?
It's just a natural. I think it's a natural progression. Like when you realize. So you're on this earth, right? You have this life for a certain window of time, and I do truly believe that each and every one of us has a piece of God within us, right? And so what makes a God is the ability to create, right? So
love that.
You have this creative ability within you, right? And it comes out when there's fear. There's got to be a bit of like a fear edge to have this creativity kind of spark, right? And so what ends up happening is, and I felt it, you have these jobs that pay you $400, $500, $600,000 a year, right, to do a thing. And it's like, just keep hitting the nail. Just keep hitting the nail. And one day in the future, you'll have the freedom that, you know, that you're looking for to do everything that you want to do. I remembered, and I'm getting to your point, but I remembered a interview with Muhammad Ali. He was a hero of mine growing up. They asked him, they said, "Why do you work so hard?" And he said, "Okay, well, let's think about it. The average lifespan is what?" He was like, "You want to say like 80 years? Let's say 80 years." And the person that was interviewing said, "Okay, let's go 80 years." He said, "Okay, how many hours do you sleep a day?" And I think you guys know where I'm getting to, but yeah. He said 8 hours. He said, "Okay, it's about 25 years. 25 years of your life is going to be spent in the bed." So now you got, how much time is that now?
80 minus 25 is quick math. 55?
Where we at? 55 years? Yeah. And then he said, how much time do you think you spent as a child going to school? Because these are all the things you had to do. Like you had no choice, right? At that point, you had to do these things. How much time do you think you spent from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade? Or if you went to college,
Right, it's another 20 years.
I'm probably looking at about 14, 15 years of your life.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you're putting into these institutions and places, right? So now I'm at 40 years. And then now you got to think about, do you want to have kids? Do you want to have a happy family? You got to give them time too. So it's like when you start to really analyze this thing, you don't have a lot of time to do the things that you want to do in life.
Facts.
So it's like when you understand that you have a thing that you're supposed to do. You have a piece of God within you. There's skills that you've been given that are supposed to do a thing. And the thing that you're supposed to do, Marcus talks about this in Meditations. You guys should 100%, you guys will love this book.
Check it out. But
Marcus talks about your greatest gift to the world is going to be something that impacts the masses. And it is your journey to find that. Like, it's your journey to find that. I know that me raising capital at Cardone Capital is not what God has intended for me.
Wow.
Does that make sense? Like, I know that. So it came to a point of like, to jump away from $500,000 a year salary, and everything that comes with it, right? Because I'm P-Volt, right? I got like a team under me and everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
But to understand that at the end of the day, you have a bigger thing that you have to do. And so you're going to have to take that leap, right? And that's where faith is. Faith really is something that, and you find it in every single religious text, no matter what background you come from, faith is something that is definitely needed.
Yeah.
Like, what do they say? Faith the size of a mustard seed, I can move a mountain.
Yeah.
It's 100% because faith attaches to the subconscious mind. And the subconscious is literally where all your power comes from. That's the creativity. Everything comes from that.
Yeah, every minuscule to the massive decision that we make is ultimately based off of whatever you inherently believe about yourself or the world, right? And so it's like turning left, turning right, right? There's some fundamental belief about the outcome of turning left or right, Yeah. A lot of people don't think about it on that level, but like that really is true. Like every small detail is rooted in some belief. So I love that, man. That's a good message.
I also, I would say I commend you for taking the leap to leave, right? Because so often what I've found is we could be in a position where we're making a killing. We're making a ton of money, or at least we're doing something that supports ourselves and our family, right? But it's so unaligned with what you said is our purpose or that one thing that God has given us to impact the masses. And then people wonder why, and I have in the past as well, why am I so fucking miserable in this shitty job? Or I have everything to be grateful for. Why am I why am I not grateful for this? And it's because a lot of people are stuck in positions, whether it be at work, relationships, sometimes marriages, they're stuck in particular situations that are not in alignment with their purpose. They're not in alignment with their God-given destiny. And then they wonder why they're miserable, but they don't have the faith to take the action to get the hell out of it and go do what they're supposed to do. And deep inside of all of us, we all have this inherent desire to go after what it is that we're meant to do, because we have this just compelling force to go in this particular direction. And sometimes we make these maneuvers out of fear to stay in the trap that was set for us, whether it be by the Matrix or else or ourselves sometimes, in order to stay complacent. And it's like, how do you break that? How do you go and take the action, and more importantly, have the faith to push you through? Because that's a very uncomfortable leap for a lot of people.
I think when people understand that, like, so it always comes back to the spiritual, right? Because that is the thing that, like, if you're out there looking for something to motivate you, to charge you, to kind of spur you forward, you've got to have this kind of spiritual feeling within you that you're supposed to do a thing.
Yeah.
Come to terms with the fact that you are finite. Come to terms with that, right? I think a lot of people are enslaved by their religions, is what I've found. You know, a lot of the people that I speak to, they're enslaved by these religions. And they're looking forward to something after this. We've already spoken that the present time is the most important thing. Right. So they're living a life looking for something that's happening in the future and waiting for a thing. And I've always thought, man, you know, knowing that you have a piece of God in you, if you took all the attributes, all of the things, and this would help people, you know, that you're saying that are feel trapped and they can't get out of it, is if you took all of the attributes that you put on God and the concept of God that you were given from the time you were a child, right? Bearded white guy in the sky. That's just that's how it was given to me.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And all of that, if I take all the virtue and all the goodness and all the strength and the power and the ability, if I took it from that concept and attached it to who you are as a person, that will free you and you will do things. You will then be spurred to move forward because you'll understand that you have just as much right as anybody else, that none of us asked to be here, but we're here.
Yeah.
And you have a calling, right? But the calling's only going to be there for so long. And I think that's the thing. People do have to live on faith, and they have to be on the lookout for omens. I say, when people hear the word omen, they think it's only a negative thing. Yeah. Omen is good and bad. It's yin and yang. It's good and evil. You can be a good omen or a bad omen, right? And so you do have a calling, but you need to be open to the opportunities and the shifts in life. Yeah. If you're scared of change, you're not going to be able to get anything done.
Well, and I think it's,
go ahead.
You know, to piggyback off of the omen thing, it's like, it's really interesting that as we've taken certain leaps that we have, whether it be in our careers or in our, you know, personal endeavors, it's interesting how the universe really just opens up for you and starts like aligning people and aligning connections and aligning, like, look at all the people that have come through the space in the last freaking month.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, collectively, there's been guests collectively with over 8 million followers collectively that have been in the space.
It's incredible.
And I'm like, where did this come from?
And it wasn't until we made the decision.
We had to make a decision.
And then the opportunity came. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, not only, and I'll let you get to your point, but we not only made the decision, but then we backed it with finances.
Right. We committed.
And we committed with faith and finance. Yeah. And
creativity comes.
Yeah. And creativity comes. And then I think also, you know, I was driving back from Sarasota yesterday, and I'm listening to Think and Grow Rich again.
Nice.
And I'm listening to the Audible, and I'm like, bro, there's so many gems in this. And it's crazy because it's really just a push on faith. Like, faith isn't just like, oh, I have a thought. It's like, let's put emotion into this thing. What are we feeling about it? What am I feeling as I'm going through the process and the end result? Because if it's all fear driven, then, you're not going to want to do it. Right. But if it's like, man, I desire this so much and I'm excited about it and I feel the energy, like then we get connected with people like you, we get connected with people like Mel, and all these people come together and they're all helping to drive the vision together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to jump on all that, but I like what you said about being open to, omens, both good and bad, and just the opportunity and seeing beyond. It's like part of being active in the present moment is like seeing the opportunity after this moment, right? So it's not necessarily just living for the future, but it's just understanding that like you have no idea because your expectation of everything is filtered by your past experience, right? You can try to make predictions about the future, but if you're just open to possibility, it's just like, what if I just make this connection and we just see what happens? Maybe I just pour good energy into it and we just see what happens. And maybe it doesn't turn out well, maybe it doesn't, but that's the only way you're actually going to grow as a person is if you go and push yourself and put yourself in uncomfortable situations that aren't filtered by your past, and you actually open up yourself to, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my past experience isn't going to be every experience, right? And on the thing of purpose, I mean, I've done so many videos on purpose. I actually did a video titled "You're Gonna Die," or I think it's called "We're All Going to Die." And the whole premise is really what you talked about, which
That'll
is
definitely grab you.
Yeah, well, the premise is it's like when people will like, I've had numerous people in my life like, Forrest, like, how are you always, because I'll trade all the time. And I'm just like, to me, like, one, I love it. It really is the cliche. Like, if you love what you do, like,
You're not working.
I dance every day. I train all the time. People see it as like training, working out, but it's like, I love moving my body, right? So I always try to get people to find that thing that they love, that they're addicted to where they can experience what I'm experiencing. But that's really what purpose is. It's like when you find your purpose, put energy into it, like you just said, it can't just be a thought. It can't just be the thing you think about at 1 a.m. at night, and then you wake up the next day and you just go do the same thing again.
It has to be a compelling desire.
You have to take that idea at 1 a.m. and then you have to take one step in that direction, right? And then once you get past that fear, right, that kind of edge that you're talking about, that's where that love comes in, because there's so many people, and I know because it was me, you sit in your bed and like there's a thing that you think about all the time. I want to do this. I want to try it. I want to dabble, whatever, and that it's never gonna go away. Like it will never go away until you try it, and maybe you fail. And that's fine. Exactly. But your purpose is beyond that point, basically, right?
Yeah.
But failing is fine. I think for all your viewers out there, if anybody that feels stuck, like understand that the best version of you is gonna be a positive, loving, peaceful version of you. Like the best creativity is going to come out of you when you're at peace, right? Yeah. So like, what can I do? Like, what are the things that I can do in hectic situations? Say I'm on a stage, people have fear of speaking in groups, right? You got to control what's going on in here. And that's where Think and Grow Rich is huge, because it gets you to understand that thoughts are things.
Yeah.
Right. That it is a big thing too. You need to have, like, anybody that's 20, 25, and you're kind of floating through your 20s and you don't know where you're going. The first thing that you need to do is have a vision. Like, you really need a clear-cut vision of, and you don't need to know exactly how to get there, right? Because that's life. That's faith. That's where faith and all that stuff comes in.
Yeah.
But you just need an end point that you're shooting for. Right. And you gotta see the vision. You gotta feel the vision, right? Like, what are people gonna be like when you get there? What does the house look like? What does the driveway look like? What car are you in?
Yeah.
What's the impact? Do you have charities?
We're on the same wavelength.
Are you are you doing that? Because and then once you have the vision, right, and you tap it into the subconscious, right? Now you got to walk on faith, and now you got to be open to the possibilities and the omens.
And there's there's a couple scriptures that come to my mind. The first one is where there is no vision, the people perish. Yeah. Right. And so that's just that goes back to, like, if you don't have a vision, you're going to feel like you're coasting through life. If you don't, and then more importantly, you need to write there's another scripture, write the vision down in big, bold letters so that you can carry it with you on the run. And I love that one because it tells me that, like, as you are chasing your vision, you're going to be on the run. You're doing shit. You're fucking making action. You're not just stagnant in one spot. You're on the move.
Exactly.
You're making shit happen. But why would you carry it with you on the run? Because you're going to feel defeated sometimes. You're going to feel abandoned. You're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel alone. And you have to always go back to your vision.
That's good.
Yeah. It's those small details. Like I have affirmations. I just reprinted them out that I say every morning. I got off of it for a while. But I was like, I need to get back to actually saying them out loud. So I printed them back out. And like so many people, when you actually go that extra step of, you know, having it with you on the run, that's kind of what I immediately thought of. It's like saying it out loud. It's one thing to think I'm going to be successful. It's another thing to look in the mirror in the morning, like I'm going to be successful, or even better, I am successful, right? I am whatever it is that you want to do. And it's crazy because a lot of people, you know, when I first went through that process, you feel this friction. And it's like, why is there this natural friction to saying positive things aligned to, you know, what you feel like is your purpose or that thing that you know, lay in bed thinking about at night. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's so much power in chasing that. And I think kind of what you said, I think to me at least, and it might be different for other people, but that realizing that you have a limited amount of time and that so much of your life is jumping through the hoops. I think part of why people get scared is because you go to school, you go to college if you went to college, and there's a system. It's like you got to do this to get an A, right? You get a job. And then by your late 20s, though, you've probably got promoted once or twice. You're going up the chain. But once you get 1 or 2 promotions, you can see exactly what the next 10 years of your life, like you can see what the next, because there's somebody who's 45 who, if you don't do anything else, you know exactly what you're going to get.
What it's going to look
and
like.
And that is what freaks people out. That's what freaked me out, where it's like, wow, if I just do this, I know exactly what my life is going to look like. Do you want that? And I think for all you watching this, if you do, cool. But, you know, I tell you, people talk to me, you can lie to yourself, but don't lie to me, because I'm going to know. I'm going to know. Like, if you say, oh, yeah, this is cool, and it's like, I can tell that you're hurting on the inside. It's like, you know, don't do that to yourself. You know, you owe it to, people owe it to themselves to realize that purpose, man. And, you know, there's so much peace, I think, found in. So you said, like, when you have peace, you can be creative, but I think actually that process itself creates peace.
Yeah. But you don't, I think instead of people owing it to themselves, they owe it to everybody outside of them too. Because again, the greatest thing that you're going to provide is not going to be for you.
Right.
When you find the thing that you're supposed to do, why you have these skills and why you have this insight and this level of consciousness, when you find out the thing that you're supposed to do, you're going to know, because it's going to impact people. It's going to help people. It should help the masses.
Okay.
Right? And I think that was one thing that was just big in that office. Yeah. And is that the law of abundance. Because there's universal laws. You have the karmic law. The law of abundance is a big one. Is that when you walk around, for the most part, especially in a city like Miami, people feel like it's a zero-sum game. That if I made money, you lost it.
Yeah.
And it's not the case.
No.
Right.
We're all creators. Right?
Yeah.
We all have, and people can take the same thing and they can spin it either to be negative or positive. And for whatever reason, our world chooses to spin things to a negative route. Right? I see people do great things around me. I'm happy for them. And it motivates me.
Well, I think it's just the nature of the world and how it's set up. And so I feel like you said, we all do have a purpose. We all do have to have something that we're going after, right? But if we do think about this in the fact that, you know, I've been really contemplating on this shit lately. I might be a nut job for this, but I've been like, we're in the fucking Matrix, right? Yeah. This is like a simulation, right? And we're here to achieve our purpose. We're here to reach a certain level. We're here to reach a certain point, impact people in a certain way, right? That shit's not meant to be easy. What game have you ever played that was easy? If it was easy, you're like, that was bullshit. Why did I even play that?
It's no
right?
fun.
There are things that are set up in order to hold you back. There are things that you're supposed to overcome. There's things people ask, why do good things happen to bad people? Why is the next level harder than the previous one? There's always things that we are meant to overcome, because that's going to help us on our story to help other people. You know, and so the idea that you just want to coast through life with ease is a very weak mentality. And I think as a man, if you go through life with the mentality that shit's just supposed to be easy, like, you're fucking weak.
Yeah.
Life's gonna beat you up. Life's gonna hit you hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The obstacle is the way. It really is.
Yeah.
That's meditation.
And what's the hardest thing to overcome for a man? Especially, I mean, for women as well. But what is the hardest thing to overcome? Your own thoughts every single day.
Yeah.
So
Your biggest
if your most difficult objection is going to be yourself and your own mindset, why would everything on the outside not be fucking negative?
Right.
Damn.
Everything else is negative because it's supposed to be negative, because you have to overcome that shit. That's part of our game that we are designed to play and overcome in order to become our best version.
I like that. I like that idea. Here's another twist. This is something that I think about, or I frame life, is that people say life is unfair, right? But I don't think they go far enough with it. I think that life is like critically unfair. And I think people always, like you said, they think of it negative, like, well, I deserve more. It's like, well, if everything is unfair, then you can get an outsized return. Nobody gets what they deserve. And I think about that in the most positive way possible. It's like, I may not deserve this, but I'm going to get it because life is unfair, right? It's a leveraged game, right? You can get bigger results than maybe what is fair if you take positive action, right? And realize and really start to play the game. Like you said, if you realize that everything is a game, like everything is made up. Like I trade every day.
You're pulling money out of the air, bro.
Bro, I look at lines. I talk with some other traders and it's like, bro, like, I made, like last Thursday or something, I had like a 50 grand day. I'm like, bro, it's insane that like I'm just looking at lines on a fucking screen and you just make money, like it doesn't make sense, but life is unfair. And I used to think when I was in my early 20s working at a brokerage firm where we met, I thought that there was like, there's what's called fair market, like
a value trade.
Yeah. The fair market, like whole thing of like the markets are smart, efficient, the efficient market theory.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Nothing is efficient. You figure this out in real estate. You go look at any market. Every single deal that you see that gets transacted was two people making decisions and they agreed on a price, right? And maybe one person was getting squeezed. Maybe one person wasn't. Maybe one person just didn't give a shit because they're 89.
Doing it. Now it's algorithms that are just doing it.
But even those are just written by people, right?
Exactly.
And people say the algos, and I see this in the market all the day. Like there's times where we can see the algos hit, but they're being directed ultimately by people. So until AI is taking over everything, there's just so much unfair opportunity to like play the game.
Some of it, bro, real talk, some of it really just comes down to luck.
And luck
like
too.
Really, straight up. There are some things that just happen, but I thoroughly believe that the luck plays in your favor when you are taking the appropriate and positive actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The person who's taking the right actions, they're going the right way, they're doing the right things, and they are in line with their purpose, they just get lucky.
Yeah.
Doors are going to open.
Yeah.
See,
things are going to move.
A lot of people discount. I'm curious if you see this too, but like when we were growing up, there was like, you hear stories about people like, you want a job, just go stand out front of the office every day, for a year, and then they'll hire you. And like today, we think the world is so digital, and people feel like, I feel like we've lost that. People have lost the idea of just doing crazy stuff like that. Like just go and just be in their face until they hire you, and you're gonna get yelled at and you're gonna look crazy, but it'll still work today. Like
dude, you just inspired a thought. This was one of the biggest things I got from Grant, actually, conversations with him. Everybody wants to be the 1%, but takes the action of the 99.
Yeah.
Like you have to be willing to do that. Like do the things that you don't see other people doing. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be the 1%, God damn it, be the 1%. Like don't just try and be the 1% that has the dough. Like also be the 1% in thought and how you think and how you move and your actions and everything. How you treat people. If the world around you is negative and nobody can make eye contact and everybody's,
Yeah.
If the world is like that, 99% of the world is like that, be loving, bro.
Yeah.
Be good to people.
Yeah.
Some of the wealthiest people I've met are some of the nicest people in the world, bro.
That's
Dude,
huge. That's huge, man.
I just got a message today. I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, "Have you ever thought that?" Because we were talking about my dad and like the relationship that I had with him growing up, and so my buddy, this is literally like right before I got here. I was like, "Man, well, my dad was like talking to me like XYZ when I was younger," and he was like, "Did you ever think for a moment that maybe he was just looking for love?" And perhaps the only person that ever gave it to him in his life was your mother. And how does she treat him? And why does he love her? So he said, I want to challenge you today. He was like, just call your dad or leave him a voice note, just randomly, and just let him know, like, Dad, I don't want anything from you. I just want to let you know I fucking love you.
That's awesome.
And like, you made me the man that I am today, and I appreciate you. And he was like, just see what happens. So I left that voice note in the car before I got here. And I'm like, my phone's on airplane mode right now, but I'm like, when I get out of here, I'm excited to see his reaction to that, because it's true. Like, some people, they're just expecting to be loved. They're expecting this. They're expecting other people to take the first step, but it's on us. Like, if we want to see something in the world, we have to start taking the steps and implement it first, get away from the fear of judgment or what other people are going to think. And if I want to feel love, why don't I start giving love?
I tell my kids, so I got 2 kids, Arian and Athena. I tell them all the time, how can you be God in the moment? Right? So like, any problems that they come up that arise, I always tell them, like, you can't be a victim. Like, get out of being a victim. Take responsibility. Take ownership of every single thing that happens. How can you be God in the moment? And so you're absolutely right. You have to push out into the world. Yeah. That's how you make your impact, right? Is like, you push out into the world. Obviously, with social media and all these forums, you have the ability to now amplify, right? But you guys know it all starts with just people meeting people at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Right. And every person that I meet, I'm sure you guys are the exact same way. Every person that you meet, right, that becomes a piece of your legacy. You just met somebody. I'm blanking right now. This is really bad. Maya Angelou. What'd she say? She said, people don't remember what you said.
Remember how you made them feel.
They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. It's true, man.
They remember how you made them feel. It's not exactly what you said, but it's just how you attack the moment. Who are you in that present moment? Who's coming to the table?
There's proof for that, right? When you meet somebody, you say, like, oh, do you know so-and-so? How do they describe them? They don't say, oh, they do this. They say, they're a really nice person, or they're mean, or they're very compassionate, right? They literally explain to you how they felt around that person, right? So 120% true. I wanted to ask you, speaking of victim mindset, we're coming up on 40 minutes, good time. The natural pushback for this, right, is how do you, for people who feel bad things have happened to them, right, and then you go, all right, don't have a victim mindset. Take responsibility for your situation when maybe it's external forces who have beat you up or whatever, right? What are the benefits of still not having a victim mindset for those people who feel like they've lacked agency? Like, what would you say to them, I guess? You
can always pull positivity from every situation. Anything that happens, man, as bad as it is, man, like the worst possible situations you can possibly think of, there's always some good that you can pull from it. Yeah. Because there's something that there's a learned experience there. There's something that I can pull from it, and I can say, okay, these are my standards now for life. I won't let that happen again. Some of the most beautiful things have happened from some of the most tragic events. Facts. Like I was watching this the other day with my son, actually, Mike Tyson's story, right?
Good example.
Like, for instance, the guy was bullied. Yeah. The guy was being picked on. He was getting the shit kicked out of him every day. And so it's like, it took one day for him to fucking snap and become who we know as Mike Tyson. Yeah. You know? So sometimes it takes these really shitty situations and circumstances for something beautiful to come out on the other end. Yeah. I'm not saying that Mike Tyson going in a ring and knocking people out and all the stuff that he said was like beautiful, but there's power in that.
He's had a roller coaster life. I say now his story is beautiful, now that he has overcame.
No, but the level of greatness that he reached at 21 years old to be the heavyweight champion of the world, like, there was power there. And however it looks, man, because everything is, I think you guys would agree, and I can tell, and I'm sure your audience is like this as well. Good and evil these are concepts that change based on like who's in power and who's manipulating the masses, right? But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this: one of the biggest lessons I learned, man, is a book, The Prince. Have you guys read The Prince?
I've not.
I highly recommend reading that, man. And I found out about Machiavelli through Tupac, actually.
Dang.
Because he would say the Machiavelli records, right? Like he you could tell he read it.
Yeah.
He was connected. He was trying to push a message through to a people that don't read as much as they should.
Yeah.
Right? And when you read that book, it gets you to understand that like the best version of you is going to be a blend of good and evil.
Mm. Yeah.
It was so I guess to get this point through, because we were talking about this a little bit about like what were the foundational reads for me going from teen to adult.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I was 14, my grandfather, he sat me down, he gave me 5 books.
Yeah.
Like these old, like if you had to think about, like in the movie where somebody gives you a book and it's just old and fucked up.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Yeah.
The Prince was one of these books, and it talks about people. The first part of the book rather, talks about people finding out where they are on the spectrum, naturally, where they are on the spectrum, good and evil, right?
Okay.
And so if you know you got a good heart, you love people, naturally you're a good person, right? Now, you're not going to lose that side of you because that's just naturally how you are. You were made like that, and that's just what it is spiritually. But it talks about understanding the other side of the spectrum as well, right? Because Machiavelli brings out, it was a book for the royal families to continue to dominate. So it was like you could be a good king, but get overthrown because you're too nice.
Which isn't good for your people, right?
And then you lose everything.
Right.
Exactly. Now your country's thrown into revolution, and you don't know who's gonna rise up in that.
Right.
Right? It could be a tyrant. You don't know. It could be 10 times worse now. And so it talks about being on one side of the spectrum and also learning from the other side as well. And what I found out was like we all take a lot of time to learn about Jesus and Buddha, Gandhi, and the Mohammeds, and that's great, and you should, because those are beautiful human beings. Like those are beautiful people that till this day, like I would love to sit and talk with any of these guys for 10, 15 minutes, just 10, 15 minutes. I'd love it because they were so connected, like to the source. But in the same fashion that people need to actually learn from people like Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, even Hitler.
Yeah.
People like that. And we were having that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where when somebody starts to learn the lessons of that other side, they learn those lessons, but they're still good. Yeah. So now you reach this midpoint, which is virtue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you had to look at on the spectrum of courage, right? Courage is a virtue. We agree?
Yeah, I'd say so.
On that spectrum, on one side you have a daredevil, and on the other side you have a coward. So what is courage? Courage is the ability to see the situation and make the determination of whether I'm going to fight for a thing or I'm not going to.
Right.
Right?
There's risk involved. I think where a lot of people get hit up, and I agree entirely. I think where a lot of people do get hung up when you talk about, especially when you throw out names like Hitler, is there's this obvious evil. They're not able to understand.
How can I learn from such a thing?
Right. They're not able to understand. Yeah. And maybe a different question is, instead of how can I learn from Hitler, is like, how was he so effective? Which is a more academic question. But when you actually learn those lessons, if say someone else were to rise up in current times, it would be silly to not understand why these people were so effective, whether it was Hitler or Alexander or whomever, if your goal truly is to oppose them, right? If you want to be, say you're a king of a kingdom, you got to defend your kingdom. You might be a peaceful, like, hey, we're not going to we're not going to execute people within these walls. It's like, okay, that's fine. Well, you might have to execute some people outside the walls to make that the case, right? You have to defend the sovereignty of your land that you own, which means that you might have to, commit some things outside of, or whatever it is, right? I'm just giving the example, and learn from and understand your adversary, right? You have another king, they have another kingdom with a completely different set of values. If you don't understand their motives and why they're operating how they operate, it might be hard to defeat them, right? Especially if their military is just as strong as yours. They have completely different motivations. Their soldiers highly motivated, your soldiers highly motivated for different reasons, right? So you need to subvert those motivations, and you're not going to do that unless you understand them, right?
And I want to say Hitler was fucked up. I'm not like,
that's
I'm not
obvious.
100%. I'm just not. What I'm saying though, just to kind of finish the thought, because I don't want to leave it there on Hitler, but there were really two things that I pulled away from him. Yeah, and one of them, it kind of leads into you knowing that you have a piece of God in you. He said when you look out into the field and you see the lion, right? And a lion eats the gazelle. Nobody feels bad for the gazelle because like the lion was made to be that.
Right.
Like he has claws and he's fucking strong and he has teeth and like he's fast. Like he was made for that. So is the lion bad?
Right.
In the good or evil, like if we're putting it on the spectrum, is the lion evil? Is the lion bad?
Right.
No, he's made like that. He didn't ask for that. He was just like that.
Right.
And so what Hitler was saying is that he was given a certain set of skills to do a thing, and he was supposed to do that thing. And it's not his fault. He was saying, I am naturally this. And if I am to dominate the world, then I am to dominate the world. And if I'm not supposed to dominate the world, then God will also have something that is bigger and more powerful than me to overtake me. So it truly is a path of like, all of us are on this path. And we got a thing in us that we got to get out. And I think if nothing else, I think whether you're young or old, that's like one of the biggest things that I took away from Hitler is really understanding that point there. Yeah. Whether it's good or evil, you have a certain skill set and you're supposed to do a thing. Yeah. And like lean into whatever that thing is that you're supposed to do.
I think, kind of piggybacking off that thought, when it comes down to it, I think that we have the ability with our given skill set to go either good or bad. Right. And a lot of the things, I didn't read this guy's, book or, really delve into the past of Hitler or any of these people that have done, negative things with their skill and
Alexander
power.
the Great,
right?
Genghis Khan, these guys.
But what I can tell you is that I know for certain that with a given skill set, we have the ability to either do something positive for the world with it or something negative. And those that have the courage in order to go forth and do something positive with it, they do that, and that's great, and it impacts a lot of lives. And some people do the opposite. However, this goes into a whole nother, conversation that we probably don't have time for today. But a lot of these things and the choices that they've made had to do with their childhood and a lot of the trauma that they went through and a lot of things that they saw. And it reshaped their entire mindset in order to make them perceive that what they were doing was the right thing or that what they were doing was what God told them inside to do, right? Sure. That might have just been some fucked up shit in their head where that was like the furthest thing from the truth, right? But they believed it to be true. And I think that really, if we're going to drive a point home, the point that we're going to drive home is the value of a thought pattern, your ability to believe in it, your ability to take action on it, and then to see it through with faith.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot 100%. of people are they're magnifiers, right? If you think about nearly any idea, any philosophy, anything, if you speak loudly and with confidence, people will rally behind you, which can be scary. But if you're somebody who wants to start a business, that should be a good idea. Like if you speak up, say, hey, I want to do this. I want to help people in my neighborhood have the best lawns because there's no good lawn service in my neighborhood and we're the best at it. Come work for me if you really are passionate about lawns. If you just speak up and say that, like people Like it
They'll
can
get behind
happen,
it,
but some
yeah.
people are so afraid of like, man, nobody's doing lawn service in my neighborhood. Maybe it's not a viable business. If I speak up, people are gonna like, and all that doubt sets in. But like for any concept, whether it's taking over the world, starting a lawn business, like you said, like that thought pattern, like just it's literally like a pattern of just and taking that action. Like people will rally behind.
That makes you the
any-
1%.
Yeah,
because
and
everybody else is scared to say it. Everybody
Right.
else is scared to
Dude,
say
and then
I'm the
other
best.
people are so scared that they'll start telling you that you can't do it.
right.
Bro, let me read this shit to you because when I was driving home yesterday and I heard this point and I had to write it down. So from the Think and Grow Rich, one of the quotes says, "Success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis. If the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Put your dream across and never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat, for they perhaps do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success."
Exactly. Yeah. That there's positivity on the end of every single thing that happens.
Whether
And that
good or
goes-
bad.
That goes back. Asked about the victim mindset. And it's such a complicated world. People start, in different places. And the way I always thought of it was like, and this goes back to what you said earlier. You have a limited lifespan. It's like life sucks for some people. For some of you guys, I won't understand completely how rough it is, right? But I would tell people this, and it's how I think about it. And I think this is a useful tool: is that you're still only here for a blip, and so you can let the things that like happen to you in your childhood affect you for the rest of your life, or you won't. And that's it. That's the idea. It's like, dude, that fucking sucks. Like what people tell me is like, dude, that sucks. And like, you have to work through it. And part of your life's mission can be working to correct some of these things, right?
Oh.
But the world is not going to get fixed before we die. Like all society's problems, progress might get made, but if you think we're going to hit that apex point, like no. So
shit might
you
get worse.
you have to while you're here, you can acknowledge it, accept it, but part of that has to realize that like there's something, regardless of where you started, you've got a bit of time where you can get out of that, make progress, and get beyond it. But don't let it's just such a waste to let something that happened when you were 15 or 16 affect you when you're 75.
Yeah.
Dude, such a big thing.
Yeah.
That you were asking me about Grant's Place, taking ownership, man. And the past is for psychos is literally a quote from that office. Like that's how they live, man. The past is for psychos, man. Like don't live in the past. Like, oh, you just did something great. Like that's awesome that you did that. But it's gone now.
It's gone.
Yeah.
The moment has passed. So like, what are you going to do now? Are you still living in the past? Are you still living back there? Or are you in the present?
Yeah.
So it's like anybody, no matter what's happened to you, it's in the past. The best thing, put all your energy, your creativity, your love, every single thing that's within you, no matter how bad life is, understand that you still got life. Understand that the heart is still beating.
Yeah.
Like you still have a purpose, right? So it's like you have to understand that and put all of that into the present moment. Don't live in the past. So many people are living in the past, man, and that stops them from ultimately getting to where they're supposed to go. Is they're still stuck. They're stuck with all the bullshit that's happened, all the things in the past, the bad information that they've been fed. Like, be open to new ideas.
Yeah.
If the ultimate good, is truth, right? Plato would say that, right? A lot of these philosophers, they would say the ultimate good is truth. So if what I'm looking for is truth, I'm okay to have a conversation where my mindset is shifted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So many people have these ideals that they live on, and they clench up when they talk about certain things, politics, religion, any of this. They clench up. They don't want to change.
Yeah.
But it's like, if the ultimate thing that we're looking for is truth, we have to invite ideas and be willing to change.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's a word, man. Drew, pass it to you, and then I'll give you the last word. Then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, man.
Well, I wanted to tell you guys, definitely on the eve of independence, so we don't forget. But go ahead, Drew.
Go for it. Hit your thought.
Oh shit. So we were talking on the eve of independence, right?
Yeah.
July 5th now. what do you guys think about what was created here? Because I think that embodies exactly what we've spoken about this entire time.
Yeah.
Is all time previously had been ruled by different, you had democracy, you had monarchies, you had, aristocracies. You've seen all of these different governments through human history. And it's like to come to this land by the king and queen's dollar, right? They funded all of this stuff for us to come over here with ships and all this stuff, right? They funded that to happen. And then the people that came here to like kind of band together and say, we can create something new. Like we can create a free world, a world where we're going to give people the freedom. Yeah. The freedom to create something that hasn't been seen before. No. Like that's literally what America is. And while it's not perfect, 100% it's not perfect, the idea of freedom is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. That's a huge topic.
That people fought for that.
I'll give you my quick, just because we will spend another hour on this. But we should circle back to this, the idea of, I think that's a good podcast. My initial thought to that is we are such a young country. When you think about every other country ever, like when you actually think about every other country ever, we're so early on. It would be like we're here living it now, but it would be like a 17-year-old kid with a ton of potential who's just made a ton of mistakes, and like you're so invested in their future and you just want to shake them, but they're still 17. That's what it feels like. It's like, but you just gotta wait, and we won't get to see it, because we're so young, right? But there's so much they've done. There's so much good that has happened. So many new ideas, and I mean we're still driving. There's all these narratives about who's gonna be in charge, but I mean we're still by every measurable angle driving the world. So,
but to those people, the founding fathers, like the people that literally signed a document, understanding that they would be hung or worse.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just goes to show like the ability to get behind a vision.
Yeah.
When multiple people come behind a certain endeavor,
makes it more powerful.
They can go so much further.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I love doing things with multiple people. Forrest had his own channel. I had created my own channel, and we were both doing our own thing. And then we hit each other up, and we were like, bro, what the fuck? Like, we need to be getting back to the number one pod and pushing this thing, because it's easier to do something. What is the saying? It's a strand of 3 sticks is not easily broken, right?
Yes.
So like one or a cord of 3 ropes, whatever the fuck. So it's like you get the point. You get the point.
3 things hard.
Yeah,
one week.
So like but the whole premise is like one person can be easily shaken and broken. 2 people is a little harder to beat. But you have 3 or more people together, you have an army.
You got a coalition.
You know? And that's really what happened. Now, I can tell you, just from the history that we've been able to read and have access to, there were a lot of negative things that happened in the development of this country too. Like the vision was very positive, but my father is French and Native American, and his entire family and generations were quite literally decimated in order to take over this land, right?
100%.
And then on top of that, the core of this country was built on the back of slavery, right? So there were a lot of things that were negative that were done in order to achieve the dream of this vision, right? Yeah. But through that, and this goes back to our point earlier, look at all the benefits and positives that have now happened. Like that, all of these negative things had to happen in order to push the idea through to the point where now, I just made a post about it yesterday. You could see somebody from a third world or South American country somewhere who came here for the first time with a dream and accomplished more in a couple of years than generations of Americans.
Yeah.
Right. So now that opportunity has been given to immigrants. We're all immigrants at the end of the day, but that opportunity has been given to everyone. And it's, will you take advantage of it? Will you capitalize on it? Because if you will, then I think the vision of capitalism in and of itself was not in vain.
Yeah.
Dude, it's couldn't say it better myself, man. Yeah. Like literally that's what, there's been terrible things that have happened here. And that's why I was saying it's not a perfect place.
Yeah.
But the ideal, just the fact that people were willing to fight and band together around saying we're all equal.
Yeah.
You didn't have that in time before. There was so much division. You know, we've been able to get to this point because of that central thing that connected all of those soldiers and the people that fought in that war back in, the 1770s, right? Like that's the thing that connected everybody, was just that idea. Because all of these laws that we live with today it's syllogisms, right? It's like, if this, then that. So like, if we're all equal, then that means that women should be able to vote. That means that there shouldn't be
right.
We shouldn't cut people out based on race, religion, creed, wherever they're from, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, because of that ideal, that's what we fought for. That's the thing that was fought for.
I like to think that it's up to us still to make it worth it.
100%.
Right? And you go back, like civil rights a few years ago, it's a very simple example because people talk about it all the time, right? Race is very big in America and not anywhere else, but we're unique, right? America is very unique in that regard. And you think about what they were pushing for, there's two different things we could have pushed for, right? People could have went the separate but equal. They could have went for, they chose to pursue a future of just peaceful equality, right? And I think there's more work to do, but like it literally is up to us to keep pushing in that direction and make it worth it. It's like, yeah, all this stuff happened / is happening, but what could America look like in 100 years or 150 years? If we stop getting so hung up on, beating each other up and just like, what could this place look like if we kept pushing it forward in the future? And I think that's how you make it worth it. And then 200 years, they can look back and like, look at where we started.
Progress, yeah.
A few people on boats basically were like, F you to the monarch. We're going to do our own shit. We're going to do it better. It wasn't perfect. Of course it wasn't, because they were just trying to do one thing back then. Then eventually abolish slavery, more people can vote, and blah, 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 blah. We could have something really, really super. I mean, we have something cool now. We can have something truly stellar in the future. But it's up to everybody, to make it worth it, right? Just like anything else in life.
We the people. Don't forget on the eve of independence that it is we the people, that it isn't stop looking to the government to have all of your answers.
Right.
The government does not have your answers. The government is here for us, the people.
Exactly.
So yes, just like you were saying, it is on us to shape this country.
Yeah.
And so many people, instead of taking ownership of what's happening and responsibility for it, push it off to the government.
Yeah.
But that's a victim mentality.
As a victim.
Exactly.
And I think that goes just back to what we were just talking about this whole podcast, which is so many people are stuck in the mindset of a victim that, it's my job's fault. It's my employer's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's the government's fault. It's always everybody else's fault, right? And when you can take the initiative to take responsibility for where you are in your place in the world, and maybe some fucked up shit happened, but like you said, if you live in the past, there is no benefit to that. You're a crazy person.
Exactly.
So,
plus, you leave no mental space for if you're so focused on the past, very little of your mental capacity is focused on outcomes.
Yeah.
For the future.
How can you get creativity? Because your attention, right? You only have so many attention units like in your head, right? And it's like, if my attention is wrapped up into these memories that I haven't overcome, if it's wrapped up into all these things, when I go to attack something, I'm only attacking it at 50%, 40%. And I think most people are doing that. Yeah. How can you free up?
Participate. You have way more power than you want, guys.
100%.
We do got to wrap this up. Yeah. Pat, you're the guest. I'm going to give you the last word. What do you want to say? Just in general, it could be the viewers. Where can people reach you? Anything you want.
Basically, I want to leave you guys with, this is a fantastic podcast, which you
Thanks,
guys
man.
have created.
Man, absolutely.
Because it is so central to everything. That's the thing you can have a slew of different people that come from different places. It binds all of us. The spiritual component of this binds all of us.
Yes, sir.
Continue to improve out there, guys. If not for you, for the rest of the planet, man. Like, we need it. The world needs it. The world needs your creativity. The world is not a perfect place, but it's not a perfect place because you're needed. You're needed. Anybody out there that's listening to this, you are needed. Your creativity is needed. You have just as much right as everybody else to be here. And it's always love, man. My name's Patrick Voltapetti. You can find me on Instagram, Patrick_Voltapetti. So I'm just going to do this really quickly because Voltapetti's kind of
bang it out.
Tough to spell. So V as in Victor, O Oscar, L Lima, T Tango, A Alpha, P Peter, E Echo, T Tango, I India. So Voltapetti, right? It's like you took John Travolta and Richard Petty and like slammed the last name together. Patrick_Voltapetti 10X. You can find me on Instagram. Also, Volt Notes is coming out. Check me out, voltnotes.com. That's my education space. freedomfundcapital.com. That's anybody out there that's looking to invest in real estate. Maybe you don't have the time to do it, but you like to get into real estate. We're doing some beautiful things in that space. I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely,
This was
bro.
awesome.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you for coming, man. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man.
Always love, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your love and support. If you haven't done so already, please, you know the drill. Like, share this with a friend, subscribe, and until then.
See you in the next one. Peace.